Chapter 304. Luo Nan quietly gazed at the world before him. He remained motionless for a long time. Even when Shuai Lei flipped onto the viewing platform and called out to him, Luo Nan did not respond. Shuai Lei was a bit frightened. From his perspective, Luo Nan's face was stained with blood and tears. It was painted into a devilish face. Blood seeped from the corners of Luo Nan's eyes, and Luo Nan's eyes were completely red. Luo Nan should be sent to the hospital immediately. "Hey, which one of you two is going to say something?" Zhang Yingying, who had been ignored for a long time, slapped the steering wheel. "Sister Ying, I think Nanster's state isn't right." Shuai Lei was flustered. He rushed to ask Zhang Yingying for advice. However, Luo Nan's calm state of mind was very similar to Gym Master Xiu's usual demeanor. Shuai Lei subconsciously lowered his voice, afraid of disturbing Luo Nan. Before he could receive a response from Zhang Yingying, Luo Nan's voice suddenly rang in his ear. "The breath of heaven and earth may not be impossible to find." These words came out of nowhere. Shuai Lei was stunned, but he felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. He carefully pondered a few times before remembering that this was related to the Gym Master's fate theory. He had spoken of this to Luo Nan some time ago. However, the Gym Master's original intention was to say that the world was vast and the human strength was minuscule. Cultivators needed to constantly work hard and be attentive in all aspects. Only then could they borrow the power of heaven and earth for their own use. What stood out was that the mind was before the energy, and the energy was before the strength. The core of Luo Nan's words seemed to have changed. Shuai Lei did not quite understand Luo Nan's thoughts, but he was worried about Luo Nan's state. He could only ask cautiously, "Nanster. The flow and operation of the river, the existence and destruction of the forest, all have rules. They form their own systems. They can be said to have their own formats. It is these small formats that are like sets of gears naturally formed by the heavens. They are joined together to form the large format of heaven and earth." Luo Nan had already entered the state of mind. He continued speaking, "From the perspective of formatting theory, the heaven and earth format is vast and boundless. It is rich in layers and changes. It is like a production line assembled from complex machines. Tens of thousands of gears operate in sequence, transmitting power layer by layer." "Here we go again." Zhang Yingying could not help but groan. The scene of her talking to herself was simply a replica of that night at Frost River reality. Unfriendly thoughts and concepts assaulted her face. She never expected that Luo Nan would purposely oppose Zhang Yingying. While Zhang Yingying was grumbling on the other side, Luo Nan suddenly came out from his extreme self-centered state. He sought interaction and posed a question to the two. "The heaven and earth format's production line won't stop working. Under such circumstances, to insert a self-made gear into the production line and make it seamless, how do I do it?" "The answer is coupling." Luo Nan was like a child striving to show off. He impatiently announced the answer. A smile blossomed on his bloody, tear-stained face. It was extraordinarily bright and splendid. Shuai Lei was stupefied once more. He didn't quite understand Luo Nan's words, but he had never seen Luo Nan have such a bright and clear appearance ever since they became acquainted. Indeed, Luo Nan was extremely delighted. The deeper his observations of gear went, the more he fell head over heels for the mysteries within. This gear building was embedded within the heaven and earth format. Rumbling production lines were added to the mix. They were precise and orderly, seamless, and there wasn't the slightest hint of artificiality. It was as if this was the natural quality of the world. If Luo Nan hadn't grasped the rhythm of heaven and earth breathing, how could this have happened? From this, Luo Nan was able to confirm an earlier guess: his mother's coupling design was closely related to formatting theory. It was like a kind of applied explanation. It demonstrated to the world how to apply formatting theory to the plane of reality. And this tangible achievement belonged to his mother. Formatting theory. Gear. Shuai Lei finally found the key words in Luo Nan's words. He tried to follow the direction of Luo Nan's gaze. He gazed into the distance with his eyesight under the dusky sky. He was able to make out the rough outlines of the distant forest and the landmark building, but that was it. Nanster, you can see Gear from here. Shuai Lei was skeptical of the level of Luo Nan's eyesight, but he was more worried. The burden of exhausting his eyesight in Luo Nan's current state was far too heavy. I can see it. It's so beautiful. Luo Nan's voice was fleeting, just like the marvelous scene before his eyes. It was impossible to touch upon the hidden mysteries of Gear with the naked eye or mental sensing clairvoyance. Only the two modes of vision and mental sensing could realize information coupling and cross-positioning. Only then could one touch upon the truth behind the surface. One could see the formless law and order, silently transforming and nurturing in the void of heaven and earth. Luo Nan greedily watched all of this. He couldn't see enough no matter what. Shuai Lei stomped his feet anxiously to the side. He was unable to understand the world within Luo Nan's eyes, but he was still able to grasp a bit of the energy emanating from Luo Nan's body. From what he understood, the energy of Luo Nan's eye's orifice was far too vigorous. It was like a wildly growing plant. It was a seedling before, but it had become a towering tree in the blink of an eye. Where did this terrifying driving force come from? Was the after effect enough? Could the structural strength of the skeleton-shaped orifice hold up? A single mishap and he would be crippled. Oh right. Find the gym master. The first person Shuai Lei thought of when his life was at stake was still the gym master. But right when he planned to exit the three-way communications and make a call to find the gym master, Luo Nan suddenly took a deep breath. His arm was pressed against the glass of the protective fence. His head was facing down, and his eyelids drooped. He took the initiative to stop his incomprehensible gaze into the distance. He appeared extremely tired. Shuai Lei rushed over. Nanster, are you okay? Why don't we take a break first? Luo Nan didn't open his eyes. He just laughed. I might be in a bit of a situation. Ha! A kind of order is like a gear. Two kinds of orders are coupled, and the gears bite together. If there's no precise design to connect them, and the difference in volume between the two is too large, then it will be very troublesome. Shuai Lei was stupefied. Zhang Yingying spoke hatefully from the other side. Don't worry about him. He's incurable. Luo Nan understood the different forms of concern and worry from his friends, but it was hard for him to continue explaining the situation with his body. This was because it involved his deep secrets. The coupling relationship formed between the heart lantern of the eye's orifice and mental senses was essentially the contact between Luo Nan's body cultivation and the sizable formatting theory system. They could couple, but friction and collisions were unavoidable. 10 days of cultivation and 60 electric shocks to the heart lantern had clearly revealed the dangerous factors involved. Moreover, the situation had changed once again, and the trend was not good. It was like the thunderclouds high in the sky. Charged particles interweaved. Something was bound to happen. A powerful light suddenly flashed, and the external neuron was like a demon dragon that roared through the wind and thunder. It appeared in the palace of Luo Nan's brain, shaking off a body of electricity to bombard the heart lantern. The 61st time was stronger than any other time. This was a direct collision between the external neuron and the structure of the eye's orifice. Luo Nan had a premonition in his mind, but the intensity of this collision exceeded his expectations. His body suddenly tightened, and his mind became dizzy. He seemed to hear the sound of his eyeballs shattering in his daze. The impact his brain nerves received was transmitted to every part of his body through his tightly interwoven nervous system. His muscles, bones, blood, and fascia all twitched reflexively. Luo Nan curled up his body and crouched down. He reached out his hand to cover his eyes, and tears flowed uncontrollably from his eyes. His eyeballs heated up, and his eyelids twitched wildly. It was extremely uncomfortable. Her strength was quite heavy, and her fingers had already sunk deep into her delicate skin. The enormous pressure caused her mouth to open slightly, and her vermilion lips to tremble. This scene was bizarre and absurd. Due to the existence of self-protection mechanisms, it was impossible for normal people to use this sort of method to strangle themselves to death. However, this was not necessarily the case in a situation where one was under the control of extraordinary power. Shuai gnashed his teeth as he watched. "You bunch of people. You guys are members of the society." No one paid attention to him. Puppeteer spoke from above the pool, but he was pointing at Tianxi. His tone was gentle and without any distinguishing features. It was as if he was chatting normally. "We've met again after a short separation, beautiful. Do you want to say something?" Tianxi's lips trembled. Shuai's eyes and ears were sharp, but he could still hear her teeth chattering. She could be considered strong if she didn't have a mental breakdown after such a bizarre and savage method fell on her body. With great difficulty, Tianxi managed to squeeze out a few trembling words from her throat. I've been taking the stairs all this time." Everyone on the viewing platform was stupefied. Only Luonan, who had fallen to one knee amidst the pain, laughed in spite of himself, though his laughter was a bit shaky. He didn't turn his head. He just raised an arm. "It's my fault." Chapter 305. On the entire viewing platform, only Luonan was able to understand the feeling of grievance in Tianxi's words. She really did follow Luonan's instructions. She walked down the stairs of the fire escape. No matter how tired she was, she didn't ask for help from the elevator. She stayed far away from the central crystal pillar, but she was still unable to escape Puppeteer's demonic claws. She was controlled and taken hostage. Of course, the grievance was secondary. Tianxi felt more fear. She was an intelligent person. She guessed that the current momentum of victory and defeat between the two sides from the choices made by Puppeteer and Black Beetle should have been reversed. Otherwise, there would be no meaning in her being a hostage. Her value to the kidnappers was to threaten Luonan. But what value did she have to Luonan? Why would he give up the great situation of reversing the hopeless situation and take the risk to rescue her? This situation nearly made Tianxi fall into despair. However, she could only place her hopes on Luonan. She was all the more afraid that Luonan would turn a blind eye because of the inconvenience. So her expression of grievance came from her heart, but it was more or less a deliberate expression. She only hoped that she could arouse a bit of Luonan's understanding and sympathy, so that she could redeem a bit more of a chance at survival. Luonan's raised arm gave Tianxi a bit of comfort. However, her reaction couldn't satisfy others. Puppeteer sighed in the air above Heavenly Ocean Lake. He slid his body to the middle of the pool's edge along the frame structure above the pool. He crooked his finger at Tianxi. Tianxi's feet involuntarily leaned towards the swimming pool. When she got closer, her left thumb pressed against her lower jaw. She violently turned her face around and lifted it up slightly, forcing her to look up at the master who currently controlled her life. "Come. Let's work together." Puppeteer crouched down. He even lowered a hand to indicate to Tianxi. His diving goggles covered half of his face. His mouth cracked open, revealing his snow-white teeth in a smile. The shape of Puppeteer's face wasn't bad. He had the flavor of a sunny man, but Tianxi was completely drowned in fear under this smile. She could only watch helplessly. She was like a marionette. Her entire body was under the control of someone else. She extended a hand upward, connecting it with Puppeteer's palm. Then, she was pulled up. Under the rough movements, she felt that her arm was about to be dislocated. She couldn't help but let out a painful groan, but the sound was quickly squeezed back. Puppeteer used his own hand in place of Tianxi's. He forcefully grabbed her neck and carefully sized her up face to face. He was very satisfied with Tianxi's complexion, which had turned from deathly pale to flushed from fear and suffocation. He took a deep breath in her hair and savored the delicate fragrance of her hair. At the same time, he laughed. "Beauty, whether you're willing or not, we're one." Tianxi was really about to suffocate. Right now, she had regained some control over her body, but she could only helplessly move Puppeteer's steel-like arm. She struggled with her legs. Apart from that, she couldn't do anything else. Puppeteer lifted Tianxi's slender neck. His footsteps were light as he returned to his original position. During this process, Tianxi struggled with her hands and feet at first, but she quickly ran out of strength. Her body went limp, and her eyes were filled with despair. At this time, Puppeteer's gaze had already turned to Luonan. Even though Luonan was still half squatting at the edge of the viewing platform, not even turning his body around, Puppeteer's eyes behind his diving goggles were firmly fixed on Luonan. He wouldn't relax in the slightest. As for Black Beetle, he stood in front of Heavenly Ocean Lake with a cold expression. He blocked the only path to rescue Tianxi. Even so, Puppeteer still felt that it wasn't too safe. He continued, "I must admit that we underestimated your abilities, Mr. Luonan. We underestimated your transcendent mental attack. Our plans were ruined. So, we learned our lesson and decided to calmly chat and discuss things. We'll solve the problem. For the sake of ensuring this, I specifically made a safety wire. Thank you for your cooperation, Beauty. Right now, I have a bit of a connection with her on the mental plane. Any experience I receive will be fairly shared with her. In terms of endurance, I have some self-confidence that I can surpass this delicate beauty. An attack that's enough to defeat me has a high chance of defeating the other first. So, right now, I can only hope that the relationship between the two of you is sufficiently close." Having said this, Puppeteer turned to look at Tianxi. "Speaking of which, Beauty, have you two slept together yet?" "No." "That's better if you haven't. Perhaps Mr. Luonan will feel that it's a pity." Puppeteer obviously hoped to receive a response from Luonan after his excellent performance, but Shuelei only sent him a gaze of loathing. The main character, Luonan, still maintained his original posture. He had even retracted his apologetic arm. It was unknown whether it was due to the effects of his injuries, or whether it was due to his disdain for his defeated subordinate. Puppeteer sighed. He had no choice but to urge Luonan, "Mr. Luonan, it's best if we don't waste any more time. Even if the police are idiots, they should come back to their senses by now. Everyone should resolve this as soon as possible and go home." "That would be excellent." Luonan still didn't respond. "TSK. Are all youngsters this cold these days? Then, allow me to warm things up first. I'll play a little trick with my temporary beauty partner." A smile returned to Puppeteer's face. He raised his arm horizontally, placing Tianxi above the water's surface. After breaking through the tempered glass at the bottom of the pool, the Heavenly Ocean Lake will probably be the deepest swimming pool in the world. It's 800 meters deep. I have a feeling that the beauty partner next to me has pretty good swimming skills. She's enough to deal with those cute little kids, middle-aged friends, and older friends. Why don't we give it a try first? Ah. Tianxi had already given up on struggling, but as Puppeteer's words entered her ears, the strength in his hand mercilessly increased. He forcefully squeezed out what little potential she had, forcing her to struggle with her hands and feet. She was unable to speak, and her originally beautiful pupils rolled upwards. "Excellent. Beautiful, you have quite the camera feel. Puppeteer laughed even more happily. His hand casually swayed a few times, causing Tian-Si to struggle even more painfully. Let us officially begin. The first act of the hero saving the beauty, action. The water of the heavenly ocean lake splashed as soon as Puppeteer's words fell. A terrifying shadow broke through the water's surface, leaping 6 to 7 meters into the air. It brushed past the soles of Tian-Si's feet, and its long tail lashed out. It took the opportunity to slice off one of Tian-Si's high heels, and the other fell down amidst her struggle. Shoes, huh? My other partner is quite protective of the fairer sex. However, I'll tell it that the next step is your delicate little feet. Do you want them to be symmetrical? The ice-cold water vapor and the scorching killing intent assaulted her at the same time. Tian-Si could no longer hold herself back, and tears poured down her face. She cried noiselessly just like that, and the barrier of her willpower completely collapsed. At the edge of the viewing platform, Luo Nan's eyes were still closed, but his eyelids trembled twice. He exerted strength with great difficulty to support himself against the protective glass. He slowly stood up, turned around, and faced the two fiends head-on, but he still didn't open his mouth. Black Beetle turned his head and locked gazes with Puppeteer when he saw Luo Nan's situation. Both of them thought of the word backlash in their minds. Black Beetle then chuckled, "You're also trash as a director. Are we still in the era of silent films? You're just doing voiceovers. Where's the dubbing?" Puppeteer didn't mind. He gave a light praise, "Good idea." Puppeteer loosened his grip a bit as soon as he finished speaking, allowing Tian-Si's sobs to pass through her airway with great difficulty. They squeezed out strands by strands. Tian-Si's oppressive breath of despair pierced through the sound of the heavenly ocean lake's water. It entered Shuelei's ears intermittently, causing his teeth to creak. However, Zhang Yingying had given him orders time and time again that he absolutely could not act impulsively. This was to prevent Black Beetle and Puppeteer from taking advantage of a loophole. Shuelei had no other choice but to grit his teeth. Luo Nan, on the other hand, maintained a calm expression even though his eyes were closed and blood was flowing. He could even be said to be callous. The situation was still deadlocked. Puppeteer had a big headache when faced with this master who wouldn't be moved by force or persuasion. In the end, time stood on the opposing side in Xia City. Puppeteer could only confront Luo Nan while using his own channels to contact him and ask for advice. A few seconds later, he snapped his fingers. "How about this? Let's change methods. Beauty, beauty, don't cry. Let me ask you something. This callous boy in front of us, were you on a date just now? Now he's crying his eyes blind. Why? Can you tell me?" Tian-Si's willpower had collapsed. She thought she was dead. How could she respond? Puppeteer shook his head. "How about this? For the sake of fairness, I'll tell you a secret first. Our other partner." As he spoke, the mutant devil ray broke through the surface of the water once more. It leaped into the air, but it didn't fall according to the laws of physics. Instead, it resisted gravity and floated beneath the dome, circling around Tian-Si's body. "Our partner can actually fly. This way, he can use his large mouth to meticulously grind away the skin and flesh of your little foot bit by bit. He can slowly chomp down. It's better for digestion. So, let's work together a bit more." As he spoke, the devil ray's long tail of electricity had already wrapped around Tian-Si's calf. It hooked onto her stockings a bit, coiled up, and gradually tightened. Tian-Si felt the sensation of a snake coiling around her calf. There was even the numbing power of electricity. Her entire body trembled, and the gurgling sound of her throat mixed with her hoarse sobs. She just wanted to faint. But under Puppeteer's control, this became an extravagant hope. "Pay attention to the time," Puppeteer reminded her one last time. Tianxi's thoughts were in complete chaos. Fear ruled over everything. It was like the claws of a demon probing into her brain and rummaging. Whatever was inside, it would be pulled out. Because of Gear. Gear is senior sister Qingwen's masterpiece. You can see it here. Gear. That's the society building we went to first, right? Puppeteer tilted his head and continued to ask, Senior sister Qingwen. Who's that? It's junior brother Luo Nan's mother. I have a bit of an impression, but it doesn't seem to be of much use. Puppeteer spoke, but he glanced in Luo Nan's direction from the corner of his eye. Black Beetle stared in that direction with fixed eyes. He suddenly thought of something and contacted someone through his wristband. Hello, you guys are still in Gear, right? Oh right, it's that society building. Hurry up and prove it. Chapter 306. Black Beetle knew that Luo Nan's current injuries were mostly due to the backlash of the secret technique. It had little to do with their methods. But this didn't affect Black Beetle's good mood. He climbed back onto the viewing platform, and his taut face relaxed for the first time. He hissed and laughed at his wristband. Snake tongue. Beautiful snake tongue. I love you to death. Keep going. Keep going. Smash something that looks more memorable. A hoarse male voice came through the wristband's external speaker. Don't try to get close to snake tongue if you don't have anything to do. I was the one who did it. Next, destroy the building and smash the outer wall. How about it? Tank, I love you too. Black Beetle was overly excited. His mouth was extremely greasy, and he smacked Luo Nan with the side of his face. He didn't conceal his delight in the slightest. Oh, I'm sorry. I know this move is a bit childish, but it's effective. Especially when I look at your face. This is the expression I want. Luo Nan didn't say anything, but Shuelei couldn't hold back from cursing. You lowly scum. If you have the guts, let's fight face to face. I'll smash your head flat with 3 punches. Black Beetle's sinister gaze swiveled over. He grinned, revealing his deep red tongue and white teeth. A deep darkness seeped through. That's quite unfortunate. I'm not interested right now. Right now, I just feel that it's a pity. Soon, Black Beetle's gaze switched, and it pierced Luo Nan's face like a poisonous dart. It's a pity that the Hexier malfunctioned today. Otherwise, we could do a live broadcast and see Tank's ability to demolish houses. Oh, I forgot. The wristband works too. Cloud City Water Village's network is quite stable. Luo Nan let out a light breath. He reached out to press down on Shuelei, who was about to explode. He leaned back against the protective glass and spoke hoarsely, "Stop messing around. What do you guys want to know?" Oh. You finally know how to respond. Black Beetle saw Luo Nan admit defeat. How could he not know that success was at hand? He felt a cool and refreshing air pour down from the top of his head. He felt refreshed to the core. But even so, his miserable experience on the 141st floor was like a volcano crater. It caused a disturbance in his heart. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Black Beetle didn't make a sound. He just slowly smoothed out the tie in his hand and put it back on his neck. He flipped it left and right, gesturing it back and forth. During this time, the muffled sound of someone smashing the wall could be heard from the loudspeaker on the wristband. Even though Luo Nan was holding him down, Shuelei was still hopping mad. You son of a bitch. You came here specifically to destroy people. Black Beetle laughed involuntarily. Don't be anxious. This is just the beginning. If I don't smash it for an hour or two, I won't be able to see any effect. Ugh! Before he even finished speaking, Black Beetle's mouth suddenly couldn't close. The rest of his words were stuck in his throat. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't close them. During this process, his face turned red, green, and purple. It was as if an invisible hand of a demon had covered his mouth and nose, isolating him from the outside world. A feeling of suffocation engulfed his entire body. After that, he felt the pain of needles piercing into his brain. His vision went black and red again, and his nerves went haywire. His entire body was stiff and trembling. Luo Nan's voice was like a cool breeze that brushed past her ear. "You actually didn't make it a safety wire? How unfortunate." Black Beetle struggled in pain. His eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. He strove to mobilize his extraordinary power, but for some reason, the mental attack he suffered this time was 10 times more violent than last time. The aftermath of the attack didn't fade. He exerted force with great difficulty, but all he could do was touch his gaudy tie. He grabbed it with force, finding it hard to make any further movements. Puppeteer exploded with a shout from above Heavenly Ocean Lake. "Mr. Luo Nan, everyone, don't act excessively. We can talk this out." Puppeteer saw Luo Nan turn his head to look at him just as he shouted. Puppeteer's blood-red eyes made contact with Luo Nan's heart go slightly cold. Luo Nan whispered, "What do you mean by excessively? Me or him?" Puppeteer adjusted his mood and forced a smile. "There's no need for us to be so intense. This is just a routine investigation. Look, I haven't harmed a single hair on this beauty from beginning to end. I was just playing a joke. I was just trying to scare her, right? Then I smashed my mother's masterpiece. That's..." Luo Nan lowered his head slightly. His body movements were full of exhaustion. It was as if he was organizing his words. "Black Beetle doesn't have the attitude to communicate with me normally. Actually, even now, I don't know what you guys want to do. There's only fighting and killing, humiliation, and damage." Puppeteer cursed in his mind. He cursed Luo Nan, and he cursed Black Beetle. Black Beetle had seen the series of conflicts from start to finish. Luo Nan's claim that he didn't know was certainly nonsense. However, it was an indisputable fact that Black Beetle prioritized revenge over obtaining information. In fact, Puppeteer himself rather admired Black Beetle's behavior. On this point, the two of them had a common language. When all was said and done, they didn't take Luo Nan seriously in the beginning. They just wanted to deal with a half-crippled half-grown child once they finished their defenses. Black Beetle's actions were excessively unbridled. Evil karma begets evil karma. In the end, Black Beetle had to swallow the karma. Puppeteer was stronger than Black Beetle in one aspect. He was more nimble. Puppeteer knew that he needed to change his methods. He discussed things with the people behind him, and he revealed a sunny smile. "Mr. Luo Nan, we are both members of the society. I believe that we can carry out a calm and peaceful exchange. I've already told them to stop over at Gear. If the exchange goes smoothly, not only will they withdraw at first notice, but they will also send the best engineering team to restore all the damage done. They will also pay $1 million in compensation. Are you satisfied with this sincerity?" Luo Nan didn't respond, but he didn't refuse. Puppeteer felt that the change in trajectory was a success. His smile grew more and more brilliant. "Mr. Luo Nan, both sides are expressing sincerity. Look at Black Beetle." The corner of Luo Nan's lips twitched. "Is he affecting our exchange?" Puppeteer was a bit startled, but the smile on his face remained the same. "No, he's not affected." Ho! Ho! It was true that Black Beetle's entire body was stiff, but his mind was still clear. His eyes and ears were still useful. Puppeteer's words all fell into his ears. This nearly caused his heart to explode. He exerted all the strength in his body to twist his body, but he lost his sense of balance under the mental attack. He didn't twist his body. Instead, he fell down, his face smashing heavily into the ground. Since Puppeteer had made up his mind, he didn't even spare a glance in that direction. He just muttered to himself, wondering if the safety wire in his hand was truly effective. Luo Nan spoke at this time. "Speak. What do you guys want to know?" Puppeteer composed himself and calculated the time. He smiled and tossed out a series of words. On the night of October 7th, the Society's Xia City branch clashed with the Order of Justice at Frost River Reality on Fudong Main Street in the city center. Branch President Ouyang Chen intervened in the later stages of the conflict. He erected the so-called logic world. From that point on, many things are unclear. This is disadvantageous to headquarters in restoring the truth of the matter and upholding justice for everyone. Luo Nan also laughed. "You guys should go ask President Ouyang. 1 for personal gain, 2 for public gain. One-sided testimonies are very hard to accept. We learned through special channels that Mr. Luo Nan, by chance, entered the logic world through an out-of-body state. You are an extremely important witness. So we want to ask. What special channels?" Luo Nan was very curious. Puppeteer's face finally turned cold. "Mr. Luo Nan, no matter how you say it, this is an investigation by headquarters. I hope that everyone can correct their attitudes. Don't create any side issues and don't want to see consequences to appear." Luo Nan nodded. He no longer interrupted. "Ask." Puppeteer stared at Luo Nan's face and spoke in a deep voice, "We want to know what you saw in the logic world. Narrow down the scope a bit. What did Ouyang Chen do? What did Wang of the Order of Justice do? Why did he do this? Then he disappeared without a trace. Where did he go? There are many things that I don't know. Tell us everything you know. This will take a long time. Mr. Luo Nan." Puppeteer took a deep breath. His fingers exerted more pressure on Tianxi's slender neck, using her painful struggle to express his mood. "Since we all know that this will take a long time, why not be a bit more nimble?" Actually, Shuelei was itching to give it a try at this time, but he was stopped once more. Luo Nan leaned against the protective glass and muttered to himself for a moment. He said, "If you want to know Wang's actions back then, you must understand what the logic world created by President Ouyang is." Puppeteer raised his voice. "Mr. Luo, our time is precious." Before Puppeteer's voice could fall, an order came from behind. "Let him continue. This information is very valuable." Puppeteer's face twitched, and he instantly switched to a smile. "So, please be concise and comprehensive." Luo Nan ignored the change in Puppeteer's expression. He just minded his own business and spoke several seconds later, "If you view the mental plane as countless layers of fluttering cloth." Puppeteer cursed inwardly, F***ck. He had no choice but to interrupt Luo Nan once more. "The world recognizes that the mental plane is divided into 3 zones, 1 region, and 1 domain. Where did your countless layers come from?" Luo Nan did not speak. He raised his eyelids, and his blood-red eyes faced Puppeteer. Perhaps he could not see clearly, but he maintained this posture until Puppeteer felt that he was an incurable idiot. Puppeteer's eyelids twitched. "Mr. Luo." Luo Nan had kept his eyes open for too long. His eyes burned with pain, so he simply closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. 5 or 6 seconds passed before he said, "Through the formatting theory created by my grandfather, I observe the mental world. It's just like that. Do you need me to explain what formatting theory is?" "Ah. The relationship between the self, society, and heaven and earth format should be relatively easy for ability users to understand. I remember that President Ouyang did some elaborations on self-logic and secular logic. You guys aren't so stubborn that you don't know anything about this, right? 4 or 5 new concepts popped up one after another, causing Puppeteer to be a bit dazed. Luckily, he quickly received instructions from the rear. He corrected the direction of the topic. We can postpone the theory lesson. Right now, you can directly describe it. First, what do you know about the logic world? Second, what is the result of Wang being in the logic world? Then I won't use a curtain to describe it. Luo Nan raised his head slightly and adopted a posture of reminiscence. The logic world. Now that I think about it, it's probably a part of the heaven and earth format that was forcefully dismantled and pieced together into a temporary production line. In terms of composition, it is a part of the heaven and earth format. In terms of rules, the self format is the yardstick. The heaven and earth format is temporarily included in the scope of the self format. Using a small gear to drive a large gear. The coupling structure here is truly exquisite. Format your sister. Gear your mother. Puppeteer felt that his ability to understand had been insulted. He wanted to immediately snap Tianxi's neck, but Luo Nan's voice drifted over just as this thought passed through his mind. Luo Nan stopped talking, but he didn't even open his eyes. He calmly waited for the noise created by the devil ray to pass. You want to blow the fuse. Maybe the kid was waiting for you to do that. At that time, my useless protection spell won't be able to protect you. Luo Nan didn't open his mouth, but the rear darkly warned Puppeteer. In the end, Puppeteer concluded with an ice-cold order. Don't let me be distracted by you again. After being reprimanded again, even Puppeteer's anger turned into ashes. He suddenly came to a realization. What was Luo Nan's goal in this round of taunting and stabbing? If what the rear said was really to provoke him to cut off the safety wire himself, then their intentions were really deep. On the surface, Puppeteer had said that he and Tianxi shared mental attacks, but Luo Nan could presumably see that the connection between the two was actually unequal after these few rounds. Tianxi was being tormented to the point of hovering between life and death, while Puppeteer was quite relaxed. In reality, even if Luo Nan's mental attack came, Puppeteer had the confidence to block the first wave. He relied on Tianxi in his hands. She was a good conductor. She was enough to minimize the damage to himself. And if he made a mistake and cut off his own path of retreat, what would happen to him? Just look at Black Beetle in front of him. He was a living example. Many complex thoughts flashed through Puppeteer's mind, but a thin layer of cold sweat covered his back. He immediately loosened his fingers and even sent a bit of vital energy into Tianxi to avoid giving her more pressure. He also helped her smooth out her blood and energy. He was afraid that his emotions would be too extreme and he would really strangle the safety wire on the spot, pushing the situation into an unsalvageable situation. He still had to explain to Luo Nan, sorry. Mutants aren't easy to control. I didn't interrupt your train of thought, did I? Luo Nan was silent for a moment. His voice became a bit deeper. I coined the term order frame. It's normal that you don't understand it. So ask yourself. Do you need further explanation? Puppeteer stared at Luo Nan's face. The more he looked, the more he felt that he had dodged a calamity. Otherwise, what would he explain? Would he return the favor with aplomb? He was just trying to cover it up. Youngsters these days had ruthless hearts. Puppeteer's mind relaxed and tightened. From the looks of it, Luo Nan still harbored thoughts of direct conflict with them. Perhaps the society's reinforcements were about to arrive. Puppeteer needed to be a bit more careful and make more preparations. Speaking of which, the rear wasn't ready yet. In any case, Puppeteer adjusted his mentality. He accepted his fate. He wouldn't get pregnant just by listening to it. What was there to be afraid of? He put on his signature sunny smile. Of course, it's best if you can explain. I want it. Why wouldn't I want it? Luo Nan felt extremely exhausted after going through so many things. He let out a breath and gasped for a bit before continuing. I came up with this term. The source was the inspiration provided by child. Child. Puppeteer adjusted his mentality. His utilitarian heart gradually faded, and his mind became much more nimble. He raised an eyebrow upon hearing Luo Nan's words. The years of truth. Luo Nan didn't respond to this topic. He followed the prescribed order and continued to speak. Child once said that observation is order. According to my understanding, it refers to using one's own logic to comb through the myriad things of the world that one observes, establishing laws of order that are easy for one to understand and utilize. And our existence itself is the product of a certain natural order. Here, the order of the subjective and the objective, the order of the mental and the material, interferes. It is like two gears biting together. If the coupling structure is relatively stable and the operation is effective, then it is a gear set with relatively independent functions. It is an order frame. An order frame can be large or small. Speaking small, it can be our own cultivation method, and it can even be subdivided. Speaking large, the myriad things of the world can be included within it. Connections can also occur between the various order frames. The eyes behind the diving goggles blinked. Perhaps it was because his mind had calmed down, or perhaps it was because he had a clear reference, but Puppeteer suddenly felt that Luo Nan's words were quite reasonable if he cast aside the descriptions of gears and formats and used terms that were easier for Puppeteer to understand. The order frame was like the self-logic of an ability user. Oh, this was Ouyang Chen's concept. Puppeteer preferred the more fanciful term of domain. On the side of headquarters, there were powerful people who proposed that the material world should be regularized. They wanted to use the perspective of pure supernatural power to reinterpret the entire universe. At the very least, they needed to leave a place for the mental plane. Of course, the 50 years of rapid development of the inner world was far too immature when compared to the profound and complex physical system that humanity had developed over 1,000 years. This argument could only be used as a form of motion. It could only be listened to for the time being. Were kids these days considering such complex issues? Or was formatting theory really that valuable? He would have to dig deeper when he got back. They're really chatting. Zhang Yingying was dizzy from listening through the three-way communications. She could not help but shout, "Don't get carried away. This fellow puppeteer is very sinister. Hey, I think I heard someone say snake tongue just now. It's snake tongue, right?" Luo Nan acted as if he did not hear her. He continued to talk loudly. It was Shuelei who confirmed in a low voice, "It's snake tongue without a doubt. There's also a tank. He's over at Gear right now. He's threatening Nanster. That sinister woman has quite the reputation. She's a true curse mage with an inheritance. Holy crap. I just checked. She's not in the investigation team at all. She snuck over." Zhang Yingying slapped the steering wheel again. Right now, the investigation team's leader and deputy leader are both under control. But the other side may not know about this variable, snake tongue. We must notify the people coming over to provide support. Otherwise, we'll just be sending ourselves to our deaths. Shuelei's heart tightened a bit. Is this person very powerful? She's been an architect-level character for a long time, but she's a bit like Nanster. Her body isn't too good, so she lives in seclusion and rarely shows herself. But she specializes in curses, and she also understands torture and assassination. She's extremely sinister. When it comes to harming people, she can leave her soul body and travel 1,000 kilometers in a single night to another city. Oh my God. Zhang Yingying stopped slapping the steering wheel and instead slapped her thigh. Be careful of this person. You must be careful. You guys are talking a bunch of nonsense over there, but if she's in an out-of-body state, she can go from gear to ocean, sky, cloud, city in a single thought. Shuelei's scalp went numb when he heard this. He immediately opened his mouth to warn Luo Nan, Nanster. The words just left his mouth when Luo Nan's back borrowed a bit of strength from the protective glass. He stood up straight and spoke softly, you might not be able to understand it if you just say it with your mouth. This way, I can do a demonstration. Puppeteer keenly sensed the minute changes on Luo Nan's side, especially Shuelei. It was clear that Shuelei was communicating with someone and knew some information. Puppeteer's heart tightened a bit, and his body quickly entered a battle-ready state. The smile on his face didn't change. Demonstration. I think what you said just now was quite good. I already understand the concept of the order frame. It's actually a domain, a small universe, a law of heaven and earth. Am I right? Wrong. Luo Nan responded in a straightforward and efficient manner. The core I just spoke of isn't actually in the order frame. Instead, it lies in coupling. The former has a myriad of names, but its source lies in the myriad of connections between each other. My mother classified these connections as coupling. I think it's quite appropriate. In the end, Puppeteer's blood-red eyes opened into a slit. Deep darkness and stillness were mixed within the blood-red color. His gaze fell upon the fallen figure in front of the heavenly ocean lake. The one who's playing dead is a very typical example. Many black beetles, who had not moved at all, felt their bodies jolt. Their scalps went numb. They felt Shuelei, who was in front of them, and Puppeteer, who was behind them. Their gazes were like knives as they sliced over. Chapter 308. Black Beetle really was playing dead. Though Luo Nan's second mental attack was much stronger than the first, there was still an end to it. After enduring the most painful period, Black Beetle regained his soul and regained his ability to move. However, Black Beetle could no longer find his position in the current situation. He saw it clearly. This group of people from headquarters were all unreliable, cold-blooded people. After he made a move against Luo Nan, he severed his friendship with the Xia City branch. He did a pirate-style jump and finally smashed into the sea. Right now, Black Beetle hated Luo Nan to the core. He hated Puppeteer to the core, and his teeth itched. Presumably, both sides felt the same way about him. Black Beetle didn't know how to deal with this awkward situation. He could only lie on the ground and play dead. He thought about how to adapt to the situation. It would be best if the sandpiper and the clam could fight and the fisherman could profit from it. But if not, he would retreat unscathed. Who would have thought that Luo Nan would talk about those inexplicable concepts right when the two sides were about to completely forget about him? Then Luo Nan picked him up in passing. What happened next? The demonstration caused a chill to run down Black Beetle's back. Luo Nan didn't have any good intentions. Should Black Beetle continue to play dead? Or should he rise up in revolt? Black Beetle was so conflicted that he wanted to hit the ground. Luo Nan didn't care about Black Beetle's reaction at all. His voice didn't even pause. From what I can see, Black Beetle's gear set, order frame, has a total of 4 gears inside and out. In the middle is a large gear formed from the structure of body and soul. Practically all power must circulate through it. Every ability user must possess such a central hub. This was relatively simple, and Puppeteer had no trouble understanding it. However, Puppeteer's attention was a bit off. His ice-cold gaze swept back and forth over Black Beetle's motionless body. Needless to say, Puppeteer believed 80% of Black Beetle's story of Luo Nan playing dead. Puppeteer had let Black Beetle down earlier, but since he had offended Black Beetle, there was no point in thinking too much about it. Puppeteer was more concerned about how to deal with this variable. Black Beetle has an outer gear aside from the central gear. That is, the 27 beetles scattered on the viewing platform and the 6 beetles in his necktie. The precise number Luo Nan spoke drew Puppeteer's attention back. Luo Nan gave a rough sense. The numbers scattered on the platform should be about the same. However, that gaudy necktie was Black Beetle's core tool. It was always hidden tightly. How did Luo Nan confirm it? After hesitating for a moment, Puppeteer decided not to take it seriously. Luo Nan continued to speak. The 33 beetles appear to be scattered, but they are actually intimately connected through the activation of soul strength. They can form another gear structure at any time. This method should be more flexible, and it wouldn't matter if he threw a few of them. However, the material was relatively brittle, and if he really used it, it would probably only have enough power for one attack. Also, his necktie looks pretty good. It should be polished with gears often. What I mean is that he often uses interference force to communicate with his chi. It can be used as a medium for activation, and it's not that fragile, so it should be more practical. It's insect explosion and poison sting. The former is a corrosive poisonous mist, while the latter is a killing move of the flexible sword style. They are Black Beetle's 2 secret skills. Zhang Yingying's voice passed through the wristband to supplement Luo Nan's words. It allowed the stupefied Shuelei to hear it a bit more clearly. At the same time, Shuelei could tell that Zhang Yingying's voice was a bit shaky at the end. What the hell? What the hell? Black Beetle was unable to hear Puppeteer's thoughts. He was also unable to hear Zhang Yingying's explanation, but he didn't need to. Even though he was unfamiliar with descriptions like gear and order frame, what Luo Nan said was something that had fused into his blood. It was the foundation of his foothold in this world. Now that Luo Nan had pointed them out one by one, it would be strange if he felt comfortable. Black Beetle was instinctively unwilling to believe it. No, this isn't logical. Oh, think about it. My information is confidential, but the society is a place with openings on all sides. Zhang Yingying and that mechanical woman know my ins and outs. This little bastard probably knew the result long ago, so he used that so-called order frame of his to wrap things up and mess with my mind. Or maybe this kid doesn't care if I'm awake or not. He just wants to use me to divert Puppeteer's attention. The more Black Beetle thought, the more suspicious he became. The more he thought, the angrier he became. He was conflicted in his mind for quite a while, but he still clenched his teeth and made a decision. He would deal with the myriad of changes by remaining unchanged. In any case, his face was stuck to the ground. He might as well just leave his face on the ground. He would just treat Luo Nan's words as farts, and he wouldn't move. At this time, Puppeteer took the initiative to ask Luo Nan, "Didn't you say there are 4 gears?" "There are only 2. The 3rd gear is a bit different from the first 2. It is independent from Black Beetle's body and soul structure. It's called coupling, but it's more like a parasitic. Parasitism can also be considered a type of coupling. I think it counts." Luo Nan's words were unclear, but they nailed Black Beetle to the ground the instant they entered his ears. Impossible. Black Beetle felt as if someone had used an ice blade to cut open the back of his neck. A bone-piercing chill and pain spread from the center of his spine to the 2 ends. In the blink of an eye, even his toes were covered in ice. Others might be confused, but Black Beetle's mind was crystal clear. What Luo Nan was talking about was his life bug. The source of his ability was a mutant beetle. He had accidentally swallowed it into his stomach in his early years, and it fused with his extraordinary power to build a unique ability structure. He had nurtured it for many years, and the mutant demon bug had already been deeply rooted within his body. It had become the most important foundation of his ability. This was the #1 secret of his life. He had always kept it rotten in his stomach, never mentioning it to anyone. How could Luo Nan possibly know? Unless this kid had a pair of clairvoyant eyes that could see through his internal organs and see through all of his secrets. It was also at this time that Black Beetle recalled the feeling of being transparent and bright, unobstructed and unobstructed. The wind blew through the gaps, and the light shone on the earth. Was there a pair of incorporeal eyes behind this unfathomable sense of transparency? Staring at him all the time, not leaving a single hair behind. Black Beetle's heart beat wildly with this thought. He slapped the ground across his chest, and the aura on his body fluctuated. Everyone present had keen senses. Naturally, it was impossible to hide it from them. This kid is really playing dead. Shuai Lei had a straightforward temperament. He shouted out, "Go F*** King die." Even though Black Beetle's face was pressed against the ice-cold ground, it was as if a fire had been ignited at this moment. An explosion rang in Black Beetle's mind, and a buzzing noise similar to tinnitus poured into his mind. This noise was mixed with emotions of fear and fury. It was like a rising flame, incinerating his plan of playing dead into ashes. He suddenly bent his elbows and straightened his body. Whether it was his body or his consciousness, his first reaction was to charge forward and tear apart the demon that had exposed the greatest secret of his life. Shuai Lei had been moving forward by half a body's length from beginning to end. Now he took a diagonal step, blocking Luo Nan behind his broad shoulders. Speed wasn't Black Beetle's strong suit, but strange shifting was engraved in his bones. Even though his mind was a mess right now, Black Beetle still instinctively chose to move when faced with Shuai Lei's rock-solid stance. With a few slight movements, Black Beetle shifted Shuai Lei's center of gravity, and he saw the face behind Shuai Lei. A small portion of Luo Nan's face was revealed. He only had one eye, and only a slit could be seen in his eye socket. The deep red color absorbed all the light, and it was pitch black. It transformed into an incorporeal pressure that pressed against Black Beetle's chest. "There's still the fourth gear. I just put it on not too long ago." Before Puppeteer could finish speaking, a gale rose on the half-open viewing platform, and Shuai Lei and Black Beetle collided together. Explosions rang out one after another, and Luo Nan's hoarse and weak voice drifted away. It was far away, and Puppeteer might not be able to hear it clearly unless he focused his mind. Puppeteer wasn't sure if Luo Nan was talking to him or not, but it sounded very much like Luo Nan's tone. The fourth gear doesn't belong to him at all. It comes from the outside. At first, it served a defensive function. It was like a lampshade, shielding against mental attacks. But right now, the coupling method has changed. It has changed from a lampshade to a lasso. Black Beetle grunted and retreated. Shuai Lei's close combat ability was at least a level higher than his own. Black Beetle had no chance of victory in a direct confrontation. Plus, Luo Nan's voice lingered by his ear without dispersing. Luo Nan's words pierced his mind over and over again, making it hard for Black Beetle to continue fighting. Black Beetle shifted his body greatly to the side. He no longer exposed his back to Puppeteer. Instead, he formed a long and narrow triangle before stopping. He gasped for breath slightly. His gaze first stared at Luo Nan, then turned to Puppeteer. Then, his gaze flitted across the various shadows of the platform. His mind wavered like his gaze. As for Luo Nan and Puppeteer, the gazes cast over from both sides seemed to be quite subtle. Intense unease and fear materialized, rolling within Black Beetle's chest and abdomen. Snake tongue. Give me a reply. What responded to him was a hissing sound. It was quiet and dark, like the hissing of a viper in the darkness. Scales slithered. Black Beetle was overwhelmed with shock when he wanted to move. A terrifying feeling of numbness rose from his abdomen all the way up, drowning his internal organs and drowning his throat. The power of the numbness continued to rise. A buzzing sound pierced into his brain. Black Beetle's eyeballs bulged, and veins crawled over the whites of his eyes. His eyes were filled with fear and despair. This was his life bug. He had always carefully kept it within his abdomen, keeping it separate from his internal organs. But now, the demon bug had gone out of control. The mutant demon bug's terrifying instincts awoke under the influence of the strange hissing sound. It bit its way through Black Beetle's intestines, stomach, chest, throat, and all the way to the brain. Black Beetle wanted to struggle, but his opponent didn't give him any chance. As the feeling of numbness and the buzzing sound of the bug entered his brain, his consciousness darkened. His spiritual light was lost forever. Chapter 309. No matter how fast I rushed, I was still half an hour late. I was enlightened in anger to change the title. This is a contradiction between the details of the outline. Everyone, please don't mind. Shuai was extraordinarily courageous and insightful when he saw this situation that went against normal aesthetics. His human instincts made his scalp go numb. He couldn't help but shiver. What kind of monster is this? Luo Nan didn't answer. On the other hand, Black Beetle turned his body a bit to face the two. He continued to speak from his throat. Pashasha. What Aka means is, sorry. Black Beetle enunciated these words perfectly. If one were to close one's eyes, one wouldn't be able to tell the difference between before and after. Even if one were to open one's eyes, it would still be the same person, as long as one could ignore the uncomfortable details. Right now, Black Beetle's behavior was one of incomprehensible restraint and politeness. His hands were a bit stiff as they protected his lower abdomen. They were slightly crossed, and his head was slightly lowered. He really did look like he was apologizing. Acting ahead of time has caused many links to be missed. The transformation still requires a process. Please forgive me. If it wasn't for the unnatural twitching of this fellow's facial muscles, if it wasn't for the fact that insect-like limbs would pop out from his mouth, nose, and even ears from time to time, Black Beetle's current behavior was simply like that of a well-trained etiquette officer. Comparing the front and back, comparing the inside and the outside, gave off a strange ghastly feeling that made one's heart go cold. Combined with Zhang Yingying's previous warning, Shuai reacted to what was going on. He adjusted his position once more, shielding Luo Nan behind his broad shoulders. He faced the thing that was neither man nor insect directly and growled. Snake tongue. Before the transformation is complete, I really do need to deal with the two of you. However, personally speaking, I hope to engage in a few beneficial exchanges with Lord Luo during this short period of time. The one before him was Black Beetle on the outside, a mutated demon insect on the inside, and a bizarre existence whose will belong to Snake Tongue. It spoke in a seemingly courteous and frank manner. At the same time, its stiff body leaned forward slightly. It was as if it had adapted to the pronunciation. It quickly became smooth and made a deep bow. It had an extremely respectful appearance. Lord Luo's theory is very enlightening. It has broken through a barrier that has perplexed me for many years. I have learned much. Shuai stood between the two. For a moment, he felt that he was quite unnecessary. This was indeed the case. Snake Tongue borrowed Black Beetle's mouth to speak and move. It was just a formality. Her telepathic thoughts treated Shuai as nothing. She only stared at Luo Nan. The transformation is complete. I've made a fool of myself in front of Lord Luo. The masked smile on Black Beetle's face shattered with a bang before he finished speaking. What replaced it was hatred and insanity that warped to the extreme. The two bloody cavities on his face turned toward Luo Nan's direction. He gnashed his teeth and said, "You little bastard who hides under a woman's skirt. Go die." The sudden change in style made Shuai's scalp explode. His eyes went blurry, and Black Beetle roared as he charged over. He directly charged through the light green poison screen and punched out head-on. The relatively stable poison screen was smashed into a chaotic whirlpool, and Xuelei's nose was filled with a fishy smell. Xuelei thought of Luo Nan behind him and flew into a sudden rage. His majestic body actually swelled a size in midair amidst his fierce shout. His body was like a giant, and his heavy fist smashed down. An explosive bang rang out, and Black Beetle flew back at a speed even faster than when he charged. The bones of his right arm had been forcefully smashed into 3 pieces by Xuelei, and they were pressed down by the heavy fist. They twisted and collapsed back into his forehead, causing his skull to cave in. But the instant Black Beetle was blasted back, Black Beetle's left hand secretly tore off his tie. He took advantage of the situation and swung it across Xuelei's chest noiselessly. It was as if Black Beetle's clothes had been cut by a sharp blade. They split open in an instant, and a white mark appeared on Black Beetle's chest. The mark quickly turned red and congealed with blood. It was on the verge of breaking, and it even penetrated with a hint of darkness. Xuelei gritted his teeth without making a sound. He just stared unwaveringly at Black Beetle. Under normal circumstances, Black Beetle's brain would have burst open in exchange for Xuelei's attack. Xuelei would have won long ago. But the fellow in front of him had a warped face and cracked skull. What came out wasn't brain. Instead, it was half the body of an ugly demon insect. Black Beetle even grinned and laughed. Oh, the feeling of ventilation isn't bad. Why didn't I discover this before? Xuelei's mind went cold. He actually didn't know if Black Beetle was standing on the side of him or the demon insect. What in the world was this fellow? Before Xuelei could finish his thoughts, Black Beetle's expression changed again. His lips and teeth opened and closed, conveying Snake Tongue's will. Lord Luo, does this count as Black Beetle's death? Behind Xuelei, Luo Nan's voice was low and hoarse, but it was still stable. It's just an incomplete soul. You've kneaded it into a wrath-like monster. That's one way of putting it. Snake Tongue didn't deny it. The scale of life and death is already fuzzy for us. You say death, I say life. Each has their own standards. But what I want to ask is this. If Lord Luo were to become like this, how would you feel at that time? Of course, I definitely won't treat him as crudely as I treated Black Beetle. I will use the most meticulous techniques to slowly knead him. I will make Lord Luo's soul my most precious collection. Under Snake Tongue's control, Black Beetle bowed over once more. The dark green beetle replaced the position of the brain within the cracked skull. It squirmed slightly. When the time comes, I will reconstruct a more suitable body for Lord Luo to place your dazzling soul. If we're lucky enough, we can often exchange and discuss ideas to perfect the order frame and other geniuses. This is my plan. Chapter 310. Luo Nan didn't respond to Snake Tongue's polite and respectful attitude through Black Beetle. He leaned against the protective glass. His eyelids drooped, and his breathing was rapid. He gave people the feeling that he was growing weaker. The 4 sides of the poison veil were truly fatal to a person with a terrible constitution like him. If he spoke a few more words under these circumstances, Snake Tongue wouldn't even need to increase her strength. He would collapse on his own. Lord Luo. Snake Tongue still used a civilized and polite greeting. Aside from the irreparable flaw in her host's appearance, there was nothing to nitpick about. Xuelei couldn't stand this hypocrisy. He opened his mouth to ridicule. No wonder your nickname has the word tongue in it. You really talk a lot of nonsense. I'm truly sorry. I really can't think of anything else to do aside from talking. Snake Tongue urged Black Beetle forward 2 steps. This made Xuelei feel as if he was facing a great enemy. Black Beetle really wasn't much right now, but if the surrounding poison veil rolled a few more times, Luo Nan would most likely collapse. And this was the reason why Snake Tongue was neither fast nor slow. Shuai gritted his teeth. Snake Tongue continued to speak. I could have ended this situation much faster. But I'm ashamed that my cultivation isn't up to par. I can't guarantee that your wisdom and aura will be preserved completely. What kind of information you can leave behind will mostly depend on luck. This will have an extremely high chance of erasing Lord Luo's charismatic theory. It would be too much of a pity. Snake Tongue. Puppeteer couldn't stand it any longer above Heavenly Ocean Lake. He looked at his watch once more to confirm the time. Even if the Xia City Police and Cloud City Water Village's security department were all trash, they would certainly have reacted by now. What's more, the Xia City branch was behind them. Now that they had finally gained the upper hand, they had to hurry up and put Luo Nan down and snatch him into their hands. Do your own thing well. Snake Tongue's voice directly rang in his ear. It was a warning that was neither light nor heavy. And at this time, Luo Nan, who had been silent all this time, spoke. You guys were asking about An Wang. Isn't that off topic? Idiot, you're still in the mood to chat. Shut up. Hold your breath. Zhang Yingying was already driving at high speed in the metropolis. Her driving points for this year had already been deducted completely, and she still had to spend most of her effort. She was worried about this troublesome thing, and she really wanted to pull the steering wheel off. Nanster, listen to sistering. Don't talk. Shuai also wanted to stop Luo Nan from talking, but Luo Nan patted him on the shoulder to comfort him. Black Beetle continued to act as a mouthpiece, helping Snake Tongue and Luo Nan realize the conversation. Even Snake Tongue was a bit unable to keep up with Luo Nan's rhythm. In the end, she could only let out an unclear sigh. Lord Luo, when you use your unique way of thinking, it truly makes one revere you. However, we are still mortals in essence. It's not a good thing to be too far away from the mortal plane. Black Beetle suddenly took a step forward as he spoke. Shuai didn't know how far the situation had developed, but his duty to protect Luo Nan would not change. He immediately bowed slightly, entering a fighting state. Luo Nan paused the communication that only he understood. His bloodshot eyes pointed at Black Beetle's ugly and deformed face, but in the end, he just swept a glance over it. Then he lowered his eyelids. Didn't you want to discuss? I'm very worried about Lord Luo's current situation. Snake Tongue's concern was just like Black Beetle's face. All that was left was a shriveled and empty shell. As she spoke, the light green poison screen silently closed up toward the center. The range was very small, and it was extremely cautious. Black Beetle also pushed forward. His speed wasn't fast, but his center of gravity shifted erratically at any time. It was 70 to 80% of Black Beetle's peak state. Shuai had to pay attention to the poison screen and smoke, and he also had to lock onto Black Beetle. He also had to worry about Luo Nan's state. His mind was divided. It was truly exhausting. Shuai heard the clear sound of Luo Nan's breathing behind him at this time. He was startled. He turned his head to look, ignoring Black Beetle's movements in front of him. Black Beetle seemed to be stunned as well. He actually didn't take the opportunity to launch an attack. Luo Nan didn't care about what the others were thinking. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He didn't avoid the toxic environment surrounded by the poison screen and smoke at all. He subconsciously moved his lower jaw during this process, waving away the numbness on his face. The main component of Black Beetle's bug explosion poison should be a polypeptide neurotoxin. The possibility of it being ISTX-3 is a bit higher. It is transmitted through the bloodstream and acts directly on ion channels. It possesses an extremely powerful paralyzing effect. However, Black Beetle has done a great deal of modulation in order to increase the efficiency of the effect. This has increased the possibility of respiratory tract infection, but it has also reduced the toxicity. Luo Nan didn't even raise his eyes when he spoke to this point. He laughed. Does this count as being on the secular level? Ms. Snake Tongue, we agreed to discuss this. It's not good for you to leave midway. Snake Tongue found it hard to conceal her astonishment. Lord Luo has done research on neurotoxins. I've taken a lot of medicine. I can resist it a bit. That being said, Luo Nan would have been in big trouble today if he didn't have the foundation of the container format and the opening of the eye's orifice to stimulate the functions of the human body as a foundation. He definitely wouldn't be like he was right now, breathing out poisonous gas, scaring people, and playing around. Luo Nan leaned against the protective glass and switched to a more comfortable position. He wouldn't tell Snake Tongue that half of his body was covered in numbness. He would tumble if he took a single step. However, his nervous system was in an abnormal excited state due to the stimulation of the neurotoxin. This was what he needed the most right now. Chapter 311. Luo Nan spoke of frames, gears, and so on. His pretentiousness had truly risen. He paired it with a few professional terms, greatly increasing the effect of scaring people. Snake Tongue was silent for a time. She was probably re-evaluating Luo Nan's state. As for Shuelei, he wasn't too clear on what was going on, but Luo Nan's appearance made him let out a long breath. His entire body relaxed. Nanster, you're amazing. Most of Shuelei's thoughts were on Luo Nan when he was surrounded by the poisonous mist. The feeling of apprehension and fear was truly unpleasant. It was difficult for him to display his abilities to the fullest. Most of his worries were gone now, and the pressure on his mind was lifted. The energy of his entire body became much smoother. Luo Nan gave Shuelei a thumbs up. He had no intention of telling him the truth. The feeling of losing control of half his body was unpleasant, but it was worth it if he could free up Shuelei's immediate combat strength. However, Shuelei was still afraid. He was worried that his opponent would use some sinister trick, so he whispered, Nanster, I'll take you down now. No, we'll attack. Luo Nan's voice was even deeper, but his will was unwavering. The veins on his forehead pulsed slightly. The heart lantern of the eye's orifice coupled with the pyramid to form the glimmering breeze. It brushed across the viewing platform and most of the skyscraper. It illuminated every corner, including the life sketches of every living being. The enormous amount of information was not easy to process. Luo Nan could only roughly differentiate based on the distance and the degree of danger. The information piled up, and one response plan after another took shape, alternating back and forth. Luo Nan didn't lack ideas. What he lacked was judgment built from abundant experience. At this time, the principles created by the experiences of his predecessors became the first basis for his judgment. Therefore, Professor Cragburst's principles of mentality were still the basis for Luo Nan's actions. His self-belief and plans were all built on the unshakable advantage of winning, which also created a will that was as hard as steel at this moment. We don't have the time to continue tangling with Snake Tongue. Right now, we need to get rid of Black Beetle. Without this starting point, Snake Tongue can only act in the mental domain. When that happens, victory will be ours. Shuelei's gaze cut across Black Beetle. He felt that the distance was suitable. He could advance or retreat, but there would be some variables once the battle began. In this moment of hesitation, his opponent made the first move. The Black Beetle let out a low and hoarse syllable. It sounded like an incantation, but it also sounded like the hissing of insects. The poisonous mist curtains closed around them, and the light green color suddenly deepened as it hissed in the air. He suddenly turned his head to look at Luo Nan, just in time to see the inexplicable flash of lightning in his best friend's blood-red eyes. Before Shuelei could understand what was going on, a despairing cry rang out in his ear. Ah! The ugly green-shelled beetle emerged once more from the upper half of Black Beetle's broken body. Half of its body fused into the damaged flesh, while the other half, including its head and the hard shell on its back, emitted fiery smoke. The light of flames curled upwards, faintly forming the shape of a human struggling in pain. It was Black Beetle's wraith. Perhaps Black Beetle was clear-headed at this moment, but his resentful emotions had already been reduced to the surface. His screams were filled with despair and fear. His screams were born from his current state of being neither human nor ghost. Snake tongue. Snake tongue. All of Black Beetle's vocal organs had been cleanly destroyed. His screams were actually the materialization of intense negative thoughts. They were like curses, but they were also like begging. Many thanks for your help. An extraordinarily gentle and refined voice quietly entered Black Beetle's ears like a gentle breeze. She used the airflow of the viewing platform as a musical instrument to play, and faintly discernible thoughts seeped in to produce sound. Who would have thought that this was Snake Tongue? The milder Snake Tongue's reply was, the more intense Black Beetle's reaction became. The intense emotions made the light of the flames burn even more. But no matter what, Black Beetle was just a potted plant in a flower pot of flesh and blood. No matter how it twisted and struggled, it couldn't break free. It couldn't die. It just swayed back and forth with its ruined body. The scene sent chills down one's spine. Snake Tongue didn't have the leisure to chat with a fellow whose self-awareness was about to be extinguished. Her tone grew all the more relaxed and gentle. Indeed, many thanks to Black Beetle. He allowed Lord Luo to display his strengths, and he allowed me to use this method to come into contact with Lord Luo. Shuelei didn't really understand what Snake Tongue meant, but when he heard her tone and the change in her previous sinister methods, he instinctively felt that something was wrong. Nanster. Luo Nan leaned against the protective glass. His blood-red eyes locked onto Black Beetle. The blood that had just stopped flowed down once more, dripping from his chin onto his white coat. Soon, an eye-piercing mark appeared. Black Beetle's body had swelled to the point of explosion just now. Luo Nan had used his soul strength to forcefully interfere with Black Beetle's central gear, forcefully pressing it down. Otherwise, what sprayed out wouldn't have been a bloody mist. Instead, it would have been a standard flesh bomb. Shuelei might not have been able to withstand it, and Luo Nan would not have been able to withstand the rapidly spreading toxins in the environment. Luo Nan's interference technique was extremely ingenious. He had to have the ability to clearly see through the enemy's foundation. Only then could he do it. However, Snake Tongue was the manipulator of the other side. She had long since buried a trap here. Luo Nan's soul strength had just seeped in when she firmly locked it in place. The soul strength of the two collided head-on for the first time, forming a dangerous deadlock. The flesh bomb would explode with a bang if Luo Nan shrunk back in the slightest. Move back. Luo Nan squeezed out 3 words from between his teeth. Shuelei hesitated a bit, then he moved back. Snake Tongue borrowed the power of the wind to speak. Her voice was like a shadow following a body. She seemed to be in the mood for discussion. From the effects of the soul animating the paper man, the intensity of Lord Luo's interference power far exceeds the scope of what the intelligence indicated. Aside from the dereliction of duty of the intelligence personnel, this is the result of the coupling of the 2 gears. It must be a method that he just comprehended. Luo Nan calculated Shuelei's safe distance as he responded coldly, correct. No bonus points. However, Lord Luo should know very well that the root of your problem doesn't lie in your interference power. Instead, it lies in the serious imbalance between your body and soul. In other words, the problem of the disparity in the size of the gears. The more stunning your performance is, the more severe the consequences will be. So you used Black Beetle to create this trap for me. Luo Nan knew that creating a deadlock situation was absolutely not Snake Tongue's ultimate goal. Even though they were in a deadlock, Snake Tongue still used her superb soul strength to operate her techniques. She pressed down bit by bit, forcing Luo Nan to increase his input accordingly. They intertwined with each other until they transformed into a powerful incorporeal vortex. It was like a melee fight on the mental plane. This was none other than Snake Tongue's meticulous design. She used this method to make Luo Nan sink into the mud of a tug-of-war. Her ultimate goal was to avoid the powerful and fierce long-range attack. Though Snake Tongue had exposed the true location of her soul, she had dispelled the explosive power of Luo Nan's soul strength behind layers upon layers of defensive fortifications. It could be said that she had nothing to fear. Luo Nan sighed, "Fine. I want to say that you distorted the central gears to forcefully realize the mutual effects of the 4 gears on Black Beetle's body. This is absolutely not coupling. Yes. This kind of structural relationship is crude and low-level. It lacks beauty." Snake Tongue's voice was gentle. She sounded more like a teacher reciting beautiful poems. Over at Heavenly Ocean Lake, Puppeteer had already reached his limit before Snake Tongue could respond. "He's just stalling for time. A military shuttle is rushing over. Look at the lights." At the end of the pitch-black curtain of night, nothing could actually be seen. However, it was already the peak hour of work. The lights of the vehicles were a bit chaotic. With the relevant experience, it was very easy to determine that these vehicles had received the message to make space for a military police ship that had temporarily cut in line to land. Snake Tongue was calm and collected. "It doesn't matter. In the current situation, unless the 3 heavyweights of Xia City rush over, no one will be able to help him out." Puppeteer nearly cursed out loud. "You're a soul body. You can come and go as you please. I need time to retreat." He forcefully suppressed his emotions back into his stomach. He also understood that he couldn't keep playing with someone like Snake Tongue, so he decided to retreat first. Puppeteer shot a glance at the fuse that was already on the verge of death. This person was already useless. "Forget it. I've done my part. I'll help you one more time. You guys play slowly. I won't keep you company. Yeah, before that, I need to leave behind a few beautiful memories." Puppeteer faced Luo Nan and Shuelei with a smile as brilliant as the sun, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. Then he contacted Tank through his wristband, who had yet to appear. "Hello, Tank. Do something that leaves a deep impression on people. Like lighting a fire or something." Luo Nan's drooping eyelids suddenly twitched twice. Shuelei was stupefied for a moment before he suddenly came to a realization. He hastily turned his head to look at the distant wetland jungle. However, the sky had long since darkened. What could he see? Even so, it was impossible to count on the kindness of this group of people. Puppeteer continued chatting with Tank. "If time is a bit tight, then just burn the top. Pay attention to destroying the fire system first." "Holy crap. That fast?" "Okay, I'm just talking nonsense. I trust in your professional level. F***CK. Shuelei's hair stood on end as he thought about the misfortune that the legendary building was currently suffering. He cursed loudly, "Snake Tongue, you dare." Puppeteer shrugged. "None of her business. This has nothing to do with me." Snake Tongue's voice was as gentle as before. However, regret is a hook buried within one's memories. It can always pull out the most moving tastes in the world. I don't mind painting my collection with a layer of tragic colors. Puppeteer cursed her inwardly for being unreasonable. His gaze behind the diving goggles swept past Shuelei, who was practically on the verge of burning. There was also Luo Nan, who was sitting on the ground. Only his blood-red eyes faced Luo Nan, who had an expressionless face. Hiss, steady. You're pretending to be like this to purposefully disgust people, right? Fine, we'll be disgusted by each other. Puppeteer's smile grew even wider. Fine. You guys chat slowly. I'll be leaving first. Oh, thank you, Snake Tongue. You saved me the expense of a fuse. As he spoke, his thumb, which was gripping Tianxi's slender neck, rose slightly. He forcefully moved the woman's chin, forcing her to regain a bit of clarity. Emotions of fear surfaced once more within Tianxi's hazy and dazed pupils. Puppeteer smiled in satisfaction and whistled again. The water of the heavenly ocean lake rumbled, and the devil ray restlessly slapped the surface of the water. Its enormous mouth split open, and it looked at the figure above, drooling with desire. Puppeteer laughed softly, but he deliberately raised his voice. This is your reward. Drag it down and enjoy it slowly. Don't be too anxious. Let the people on every level take a look. Let our Mr. Luo have ample time to consider. His mother's work or his lover's life? Which one should he save first? Or perhaps he can't save either. Puppeteer's gaze pointed at Luo Nan once more. His gaze locked with those blood-red eyes, and he maintained a smile. His 5 fingers loosened, allowing Tianxi to fall down. The water rumbled, and the devil ray slapped its pectoral fins. It leaped up, its large mouth opened with fine teeth, and it faced the figure above. It was in this instant that Puppeteer saw the blood overflowing from Luo Nan's eyes, as well as the marks that continued to be engraved on his face. Puppeteer's heart was incomparably satisfied. His index and middle fingers, which had just been freed from the burden, streaked across Luo Nan's forehead, sending a greeting. We'll never meet again. Puppeteer gently leaped up, heading toward the dome. He was just about to cross over the frame's steel beams when he heard the muffled sound of falling into the water. The clear difference made his heart skip a beat, and he instinctively lowered his gaze. He just happened to see the devil ray unfurl its pectoral fins that exceeded 15 meters in length. It was like an enormous demonic bat as it soared into the air and landed beneath Puppeteer's feet. Why did it fly so high? Hold on. Was that the sound of water? Puppeteer's gaze shifted, and he saw a velvet skirt temporarily bulging from being soaked in the water within the undulating waves of the heavenly ocean lake. Get out of the way. Snake Tongue's unprecedented warning exploded, causing Puppeteer to shiver in shock. However, this did not hinder his instincts, which had been tempered over and over again, from forcefully shifting his position. And at nearly the same time, another deep shout exploded directly on the soul plane. Puppeteer. Puppeteer knew that he absolutely should not be distracted, but the fierce and cold blade that penetrated the depths of his soul forced Puppeteer to turn his head. He locked eyes with the blood-filled eyes in the distance. Lightning tore through the turbid blood, dazzling to the eye. Even though he was wearing diving goggles, Puppeteer still instinctively squinted his eyes. It was as if he really could see a lightning spear flickering in the night sky, heading straight for his chest. At this moment, all his instincts and tempering were annihilated in a puff of smoke under the soul-tearing attack. Puppeteer's body stiffened in the most unnatural way. The mutant devil ray's body was enormous, and its flying momentum was swift and violent. Even though Puppeteer had shifted at least 3 body lengths, it was still not enough. It was far from enough. A rain of blood sprayed out, and the sharp teeth of the devil ray's mouth latched onto Puppeteer's right arm. It was the same arm that had previously choked Tianxi. In an instant, Puppeteer's limbs were separated. Then came the impact of the pectoral fins and wings. The hidden mutated barbs directly pierced through Puppeteer's chest, piercing in along with 2 rows of ribs. The sharp pain caused him to sober up a bit. He kicked with all his might, and he actually managed to borrow some strength to fly to the side. However, the over 10-meter-long tail of the whip buzzed as it lashed out, bringing with it the sound of chains shaking. The heavy whip struck Puppeteer right in the face. His diving goggles shattered and splattered, revealing Puppeteer's bulging eyes as well as his exceptionally incredulous expression. In the blink of an eye, all of this was torn to pieces by the powerful pressure that burst forth. Only a headless and mutilated body fell straight into the heavenly ocean lake. Waves of blood came and went, and very soon, it was completely diluted. An eye for an eye. After killing a powerful enemy with a backhand, he had come with the momentum of a great victory. He should have carried on the experience of his victory and made persistent efforts in order to achieve victory a second time. But Luo Nan did not. All the intelligence indicated that this child lacked actual combat experience. But he had performed an inconceivable transformation between hard and soft. He had used the most correct and intelligent method to see through the trap of the fortifications. It was very hard to explain this with experience or intuition. It was as certain and natural as copying a standard answer. Snake Tongue knew that if this continued, her foundation would be stripped clean. And that would undoubtedly be the time for Luo Nan's mental attack to completely tear apart her defenses. What to do? 100 thoughts flowed through Snake Tongue's mind, but they were all meaningless. This was because she could no longer see through Luo Nan. Beep! Beep! A ringing sound came from Luo Nan's wristband. This was a warning sent by the control center after the fire protection system of gear was cut off. The destruction of the tank continued. It was only a matter of time before the fire started. Luo Nan's face was as gloomy as water. Snake Tongue could feel the irritation within the soul strength that was projected over. A cold killing intent seeped out from the glimmering breeze. It was unreserved. However, Luo Nan's penetrative force was not affected. He just shifted his gaze to the sky above the heavenly ocean lake, pointing straight at the devil ray floating above the water. The sound of water surged, and the devil ray's height increased. Its pectoral fins flapped slightly, and it flew away from the sky above the heavenly ocean lake. It pressed down to the edge of the viewing platform. Luo Nan, Shuelei, and even the remains of Black Beetle and Snake Tongue's soul body were all placed under the shadow of its flat body. Before Snake Tongue could react to what was going on, the devil ray's pectoral fins lashed out. The remains of Black Beetle in front of her were like a smashed basketball. His entire body deflated, and he was flung over 30 meters away. He only stopped when he smashed into a decorative statue on the platform. The pure power of the attack did not break the balance. Instead, it simply crushed him. Plus, Snake Tongue was distracted. She didn't react in time, and the flesh bomb didn't even explode. It was destroyed. 70 to 80% of the bones in the remains of Black Beetle's body were shattered. He was like a broken water bag, blood gushing out. His foundation was destroyed. Black Beetle's wraith was like a candle in the wind. It flickered twice, and then it was completely extinguished. Snake Tongue didn't even let out a grunt. At least half of this attack was meant to vent his anger. So what? The heavily chained crow invaded the Star River scene of Luo Nan's mental clairvoyance, locking onto the life sketches of the Devil Ray. It pierced through every star, weaving them into an even more abstract three-dimensional picture. Amidst the deep vibrating sound, the Devil Ray no longer had a domain of freedom that belonged to it from the inside out. It could only lower its head. Luo Nan extended his hand and lightly touched the side of its pectoral fins that were flipping like waves. The outside was wrapped in a layer of mucus. It was cool and smooth to the touch, but the force was not light. It jolted Luo Nan's palm numb. "You're... Nanster, don't." These things were originally used by the devil ray to assist in hunting. Right now, Luo Nan was using them as handrails. He borrowed strength to stand steadily atop the devil ray's enormous body. The devil ray felt a bit awkward being gripped by Luo Nan's head fins. But right now, it was intimidated by Luo Nan's gloomy thundercloud-like emotions. The actions of its enormous body were naturally influenced by those emotions. The frequency at which its pectoral fins and wings flapped increased by quite a bit. "Nanster, don't be rash." Shuelei wanted to jump up as well, but this would instantly break the balance between Luo Nan and the devil ray. It would be much more difficult to adjust. Therefore, the devil ray shook its body in a very unfriendly manner and floated up, not giving Luo Nan a chance. Shuelei was both anxious and angry. He looked at where Luo Nan's gaze was pointing, and he saw that Luo Nan had cast his gaze toward the forest behind the curtain of darkness. How could he not know what his best friend was thinking? Shuelei immediately said, "Hey, hey," but his mouth was clumsy at this time. He was unable to speak a reason, so he could only ask Zhang Yingying for help. "Hurry up and persuade Nanster. He wants to ride the fish and fly over." Ha! The series of unforeseen events happened far too quickly, and most of the key segments occurred on the mental plane. Zhang Yingying wasn't too clear about the changes in the situation on the viewing platform. She just felt that there was something wrong with her ears, or that Shuelei's mouth was cramping. Luo Nan actually took the initiative to contact her just as she was confused. "Give me information on Tank." "Tank? I say, you." Immediately. Luo Nan's voice wasn't loud, but it was so heavy that it made one's heart flutter. Zhang Yingying felt inexplicably weak. She mumbled, "That fellow's physical qualities are excellent. His hard body skills are especially outstanding. He can temporarily increase his defensive power. That's all." "Strong defensive power, huh?" Luo Nan looked as if he understood something. "What's going on over there?" "Hey, Luo Nan, you." Oops. Before Zhang Yingying could finish speaking, a terrifying deep howl rumbled over from the other side. Her heart suddenly clenched, and she felt her blood sink. Her brain went dizzy, and her entire body felt bad. She practically cut off the communication by reflex. Her body felt better this way, but when she came to her senses, she could only look at the disconnected communication display and slap her head. On the viewing platform, the devil ray rose 7 to 8 meters into the air. It suddenly opened its enormous mouth, and at the same time, its lower abdomen had 2 rows and 4 rows. A total of 8 cracks opened up. This was where the gills of a normal devil ray should be. However, after the mutation, there were already some mutations. Right now, traces of the flesh and blood of the fish in the crystal pillar still remained on the gills. The vicious aura of a mutant was displayed to the fullest. A low-frequency howl rang out from the gap between its enormous mouth and its gills. The deep howl spread in all directions under the push of the enormous sound pressure. It was like a heavy train passing by, rumbling and vibrating. It caused every frame structure and protective glass on the viewing platform to tremble violently. It was like an earthquake had just happened. However, this deep howl only lasted for less than 5 seconds before the platform suddenly went silent. It did not stop, but the frequency of the sound waves had already sunk below the boundary of 20 Hz, entering the domain of infrasonic waves. The sound waves conducted in the air did not directly affect Snake Tongue, but they still left her stunned. Infrasonic waves had powerful penetrative power, and they transmitted information accurately. Many life forms in the ocean used them to sense danger and determine direction. However, it was relatively rare to see a mutant that could actively emit powerful infrasonic waves. In theory, the devil ray was an enormous mutant. Its pure fleshly strength was already close to A rank, and its fleshly body was flexible and tough. As long as it was used properly, it could use its empty cavity to emit sound. High and low frequencies were not difficult. It was understandable. The crux of the matter was how it was used. Perhaps the devil ray possessed the physical conditions to release shockingly powerful infrasound waves, but this was definitely not its innate ability. Even after it had mutated, it was still the same. Otherwise, its method of hunting for food would have undergone an astonishing change. The management of Cloud City Water Village would not have placed such a dangerous creature in the crystal pillar. In other words, after Luo Nan controlled the devil ray, he reshuffled the application of its power. How did Luo Nan do this? And what was he using infrasonic waves for? Several questions piled up one after another, merging with the ominous dark clouds in front of her. It made Snake Tongue feel worse and worse. Her train of thought was inevitably affected by the successive changes, and she began to deviate. But at this moment, a substantial psychic pressure arrived, making her mind shiver. A floating curtain was set up on the viewing platform. For the sake of making sounds, the devil ray's enormous body was nearly upright at a 90-degree angle. Even so, the muscles of its back formed a depression, providing Luo Nan with a fulcrum to maintain balance. Luo Nan held the fin in his hand. Visually, he was still a head taller than this enormous creature. Their relative height exceeded 10 meters. He looked down from high above, like a god controlling a gremlin, overlooking the location of Snake Tongue's soul body. Soon, the effects of this technique manifested. The resonance of the heart and lungs wasn't fatal, but it caused the blood and energy of the unconscious people to roil. It affected their nervous system functions, causing all sorts of discomfort. This resulted in chaotic thoughts and a terrible unstable state of mind while they were unconscious. Snake Tongue cried out to herself that this was bad. The main functions of the fortifications formed by the Nightmare Vine spell were to divert and suck blood. The latter, in particular, required a powerful external force to stimulate the potential of the target. Then the potential was extracted to strengthen the spell. However, Luo Nan's actions had turned the blood and energy of the person into a mess. What potential was there left? One or two wasn't a big deal, but several dozen people were all like this. Even a curse master like Snake Tongue would find it hard to control them in a short amount of time. Chapter 3:14. Snake Tongue never expected that the situation would reverse like this. Luo Nan played a beautiful domino game. Several dozen road signs fell down from the material plane. They affected each other and formed a joint force. They inconceivably and logically affected the mental plane, warping and deforming the defensive structure of the Nightmare Vine spell. The mental attack she was most vigilant against had yet to make its official appearance, but the fortifications she had built with so much effort nearly fell apart. Right now, Snake Tongue was at the center of the fortifications. Her mind was shaken, and she felt impatient. This was mostly caused by the backlash of the Nightmare Vine spell. At first, she believed that Luo Nan was going to shatter the foundation of her spell and dig open the fortifications. But after blocking 2 rounds of backlash, she felt that something was wrong. Under the attack of Luo Nan's infrasonic waves, the thick vines born from the Nightmare Vine spell did not wither and become listless. Instead, it was as if they had taken stimulants. They were restless without end. Snake Tongue was aware of her own situation. Her method of erecting fortifications was a bit of a trick. The collapse of the fortifications was fine, but the resulting backlash was truly troublesome. Luo Nan's methods and train of thought caused her heart to be on guard. I can't stay here any longer. An intense thought of retreating arose in Snake Tongue's mind for the first time. But just as this thought was born, a powerful restraining force suddenly rose. The Nightmare Vine spell's blood-devouring intent finally found a nearby target. Snake Tongue cried out to herself that this was bad. She immediately chanted an incantation, disregarding the consequences. She wanted to disperse the out-of-control nightmare vine spell. But at this time, the uncomfortable feeling of being seen through became clear once more. Her clairvoyance instinctively allowed her to see Luo Nan's interweaving blood and fire. His eyes were piercingly cold. The mental attack came. It was different from the heavy hammer-like bombardment described in the intelligence report. It was a sharp blade that silently pierced through the chaotic defensive system. The attack pierced through all the defenses and pierced straight at Snake Tongue's weakish soul body. This attack didn't heavily injure Snake Tongue, but it interrupted the spell she had just prepared. It also severed the last bit of possibility for her to control the nightmare vine spell. But from Snake Tongue's perspective, the most fatal part was the nightmare vine spell's defensive system. It transformed into an invisible cage on the mental plane, trapping her within. She wouldn't be able to struggle free in a short amount of time. Snake Tongue used all her strength and tried all sorts of methods. This included her most dreaded method of interfering and transforming between the mental and material planes. However, none of them worked. Instead, her soul body interfered too much with the material plane after a series of attempts. She gradually revealed herself. "Nanster, you've gone too far." Just as Xuelei rubbed his chest and walked out from the Devil Ray's wide back, he saw a shadow appear in the open space in front of him. It was vaguely like a woman, glowing with a faint green light in the night. Upon closer inspection, that light was clearly a curtain of hair that fell to the ground. Half of it draped over the back, while the other half covered the exceptionally delicate figure of a person. Such a form was like that of a ghost or a spirit. It was so faint that its face could not be seen clearly, as if it would dissipate in the wind at any time. However, upon closer inspection, there were several tens of long strands of smoke surrounding this delicate woman. They were intertwined with each other. When they fluttered, they were like streamers of feathers, but when they were ferocious, they were like a prison cage. This is Snake Tongue. Xuelei had guessed it, but he was still a little confused. He didn't know why this mysterious expert who had been fighting against them for a long time would suddenly appear, and in such a form at that. This wasn't the same as the ugly and sinister black beetle's mutilated body from before, okay? Snake Tongue didn't care about how she looked. Right now, there was no one else in her eyes. There was only Luo Nan. Her soul had left her body, and she had been forced to reveal herself. From her perspective, the situation had already completely collapsed. And all of this was caused by the teenager on top of the Devil Ray's head. Compared to the result, Snake Tongue was even more unable to accept the process. She didn't know at least half of the methods Luo Nan used from the moment he truly unleashed his strength. In other words, she was muddle-headed and ended up in such a state. The most absurd thing was that her and Luo Nan's soul strength were still entangled. But what was the point of this entanglement? The feeling Luo Nan gave her was that he was clearly using a single pinky finger to hook her in place. The rest of his body was casually toyed with. And this was the effect that Snake Tongue believed she could achieve. It wasn't that she had never experienced this sort of experience before, but she never thought that it would reappear on the teenager's body. This was not a reflection of strength, but a difference in insight and realm. Snake Tongue composed herself slightly. It could be said that she had suffered a crushing defeat in today's match. However, it was too early to say that she was consigned to eternal damnation. She was someone who had experienced the affairs of the world for a long time. She soon adjusted her state of mind. She no longer thought of struggling, nor did she conceal her figure. It was certainly the latter. It was the purest light within the darkness, and it was a pupil that circulated with the ripples of life. It billowed, flickered, and revolved there. It drew upon the long river of time, revealing the ancient imprints to the present. It transformed into a silent intent that silently gazed at him. Mom. This completely unreasonable thought plucked at his heartstrings. Luo Nan was a bit dazed, but he soon strove to open his eyes wide. He wanted to engrave this pupil into the bottom of his heart. However, this scene of waves of light reflecting each other only lasted for an instant. Turbid colors flipped over from within the pure luster. Thick smoke and flame smeared wantonly, willfully trampling on everything. It was as if Luo Nan's chest had been fiercely pounded by a fist. The flames burned straight into his eye sockets, bringing along poisonous smoke. They poured into his heart and lungs, instantly transforming into a field of fire. There's a fire. The flames roiled within his internal organs. The most laughable bit of wishful thinking in his heart transformed into the poisonous smoke. Luo Nan subconsciously tightened his grip on the thick skull fin in his hand. Pain and fury that burned his heart and lungs rumbled to the top, breaking his throat and causing him to howl. Chapter 3:15. It was already night. The dark curtain of night and the flashy lights interweaved, mixing silence and restlessness together to reveal the primary colors of the city. This was originally a flourishing city that could swallow everything, but after a short 30 seconds, in a corner of the night, in a wetland jungle that had been temporarily forgotten by the majority of people, soundless thunder rumbled like the carriage of a demon god. On the small swamp lake adjacent to Heir, fish leapt up due to the flickering flames. They rushed out of the water, but in the blink of an eye, their bodies trembled and they smashed back into the water. On the shore of the lake, a sandpiper that was treading on the shallow water in search of food suddenly stood up. It staggered 2 steps forward, flapped its wings, and flew up. In less than a few seconds, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of panicked birds flew up from the forest with a clamor. Below them, foxes, badgers, mice, rabbits, and even the occasional wolf, deer, and other walking beasts began to frantically and chaotically flee. The vast majority of them were driven by the sudden collapse of the atmosphere of the jungle. Without any destination in mind, they clashed and trampled each other. Some even directly crashed into trees and fell into the water. Screams and cries rang out incessantly. In a flash, the wetland jungle turned into a hellish cauldron. The collapse of chaos rapidly spread. In this chaotic background, Heir leaned against the side of the jungle. Amidst the clanging sounds, a sturdy figure smashed through the window of the second floor. He jumped out and rolled on the ground. Without stopping, he madly ran with all his might, smashing into the depths of the jungle. An invisible and soundless shockwave covered an area of several hundred meters around Heir. Along the way, the forest was littered with dead birds and beasts. Most of them had no external injuries. Their distorted postures made one's heart palpitate. The damage of infrasound was mainly caused by resonance with the natural vibration frequencies of the brain, chest, and abdomen. This caused the nervous system to be in disorder, and the organs to distort and rupture. They could die extremely quickly, or they could die extremely miserably. Witnessing this scene, Tank, who had always regarded himself as valiant, felt a chill run down his spine. His feet ran even faster, and he charged forward in a straight line. He had to rush out of this domain of death in the shortest amount of time possible. As he madly ran, he issued a low roar from his throat. His organs squirmed, and the power of his blood and energy gurgled. With his many years of cultivation, he roused his blood and energy to form a thunderous sound. It formed its own pattern to resist the infrasound. The infrasonic waves that were forcefully suppressed came without a trace. Even though he reacted quickly, the first wave still impacted him quite a bit. Then, he had to forcefully stimulate his lungs to resist the resonance. The feeling was not pleasant, and his internal injuries were also accumulating. What's more, a profound cultivation could control the internal organs, but not the brain. Even with the thunderous defense, it was only temporary. Therefore, he could only step on the mud and water with an ashen face. Like a bear, He crashed into trees and snapped branches as he fled. He didn't dare to think of anything else. Hundreds of meters into the depths of the jungle, his body suddenly relaxed, and the invisible sound pressure finally disappeared. The tank ran for another distance before he dared to stop the thundering sound in his internal organs. However, he could not help but have blood rush up his throat, and his entire mouth was filled with a fishy smell. He spat out a mouthful of bloody foam and used the internal communications channel to contact Puppeteer. Naturally, no one responded. There was also the mysterious snake tongue. He had pulled out a mental connection, but there was no news of her either. This made Tank's mood even worse. At this moment, a communication request came from another line. Yuan Fei. This fellow was already under house arrest. It wasn't easy to make a call, but Tank didn't appreciate it at all. He roared as soon as the call connected, "What the hell is going on? Didn't you say this kid has no background? What the hell is a directional infrasonic weapon?" Yuan Fei's voice came back from the other side, "Are you out of your mind?" "Out of your mind, my ass." Tank had just walked the line between life and death, and his brain had been messed up by the infrasonic waves. Right now, Tank would bite anyone he saw. Who cared who they were? He blabbered, "You motherf asterisk cur, Yuan. You even scam your own people. I won't even give you a second glance even if you deliver your ass to my doorstep in the future. You really are out of your mind." Yuan Fei's voice remained calm. In Xia City, only the permanent fortifications at the edge of the wilderness are equipped with infrasonic arrays. Do you want the entire city to die with you by killing you from several hundred kilometers away? Pingjiang District, Acumen College, North Shore Jungle. Look at the way the animals die. I nearly ended up like them. Tank wanted to roar again, but he couldn't help but cough twice in his throat. He forcefully suppressed another mouthful of blood. He had no choice but to lower his voice by an octave, but he still gnashed his teeth in anger. "Also, I'll give you a piece of news. The operation team has no more credibility. Puppeteer and Snake Tongue were alive and kicking just a moment ago, torturing and extorting a confession. But in the blink of an eye, they died who knows where. Either the Xia City branch's experts have arrived, or that kid is too deep. Let me emphasize it to you a few more times. Directional infrasonic weapon. Directional infrasonic weapon. Fuck.